感谢 FOCA 福尔摩沙马戏团有礼貌先生的演出，将马戏升华为一种表演艺术。 我也希望我可以玩一下麦克风，但是工作人员应该杀了我，所以接下来我们想想看马戏呢，其实 circus is never just about juggling and tricks. At FOCA, it's a performance of real art. Ladies and gentlemen, online and in front of me, good afternoon. I would like to welcome you to today's meeting lab, Sustainable Travel Forum. Now let us welcome one of the moderators, CEO of GIS Group, Mr. Jason Ye. 接下来要欢迎上台的这位，是搭机旅游次数比我多很多，比我搭捷运次数还要多的集思的执行长，也是我们今天论坛的主持人，请上台为我们说几句话，并开始今天的论坛。
潘董事长，Victor KK 队的 Victor、Marvin 还有 David， 还有各位好朋友、各位来宾，大家好，很高兴有这个机会，请大家到瓶盖工厂来参加永续峰会，然后未来会议制造所的这场论坛哦。那永续这些事情，很早以前听到的时候，感觉到好像是一个行销的名词，好那。可是经过这波疫情，大家都会觉得好像我们都需要有更多的行动啊，从我们个人开始，比如说我开始会想，旅行的时候要带着自己的拖鞋，带着自己的牙刷，好，然后尽量去减少这种不必要的这种浪费。那但对于整个这个我们的产业来讲，我觉得更重要的是，如果我们能够更加的注意这个，因为会议跟展览或者旅游，如果我们每一个人都能够当成一个所谓负责任的消费者，共同爱护地球，我相信我们的环境一定会更加的美好。那其实我以前在念观光研究所的时候，就看到有几行字，他写的说，观光这个产业呢，其实是最环保、最不污染的一个产业哈，因为我们只要把老祖先留给我们的东西好好保存着，它就可以世世代代、子子孙孙不断的流下去，那我们可以不断的赚钱哈。那这也是我们今天永续的一个很重要的主题哈。那接下来我要介绍一个，刚刚潘董事长在问说，那到底这是谁的点子哈？为什么要做的这样的一个峰会哈？那我们来欢迎这个 David 罗上台 ，David。
非常谢谢 Jason 哈，然后潘董以及各位很棒的嘉宾。其实我站在这边非常紧张，因为台下都是非常重量级的先进跟嘉宾哈，那我觉得今天这个 moment 的时间，我想要拉回到在1个月前第一次跟 Jason 的碰面，就是我们作为一个小小的社会企业好事交易所，那其实我们就很大胆的在瓶盖工厂对于 Jason 提出一种想象，这是一个体验的年代，那其实我们很在意的是这个体验的美好，而不是距离，而不是方法，而不是虚拟或现实。所以当时候我们在跟 Jason 做一个共议的时候，他就给我们很多国际的观点。然后，但是呢，一直到第一次我拿到他们给我们的反馈，我只看到标题，我就非常感动因为当时候他们下了一个标题：人类因为聚集而伟大。那我们就一直在想，其实，在疫情之前、疫情之后，我们每一次的相聚，无论你是开会，无论你是旅游，无论你是跟家庭的生活，其实它承载的就是我们所有美好的过去。那永续是什么？其实，如同 Jason 讲，现在非常泛滥，但是这个的泛滥不代表它不好，而是我们找到一种共识。如同刚刚我在跟很多的嘉宾聊到，我们在一个很特别的年代，如果永续是一个问题，是一个议题，我们既然能够跨界，大家都在思考这个问题的时候，我觉得它是一个很棒的契机。那如同今天，其实我的本业也好，或者我们的社会企业，也许都跟在座的各位是不同的产业，但是我们能够聚集在一起，其实恰恰好就呼应了联合国 SDGs， 不是第1项，不是到16项，而是第17项。我们是一个多元的伙伴关系，正在解决有关于永续前进的可能。而这个可能不是解决问题， 而是让所有的美好能够更立体的呈现。那我相信就是我们大家都会想要去追寻的。所以在这边也非常非常的期待，特别是有一个未来会议的制造所，我觉得我们对未来所有的想象，很可能就会在今天的下午对话当中产生很棒的火花，也非常的期待。谢谢各位今天的到来，谢谢 Jason。
好，谢谢 David。在我介绍我们今天的这个 speaker 之前呢，我要跟大家讲，大家现在坐在椅子上的这些木头啊，事实上是台湾的国产材，就是30-40年前呢，他们这个种下去的一个木头，那它现在重复使用，也符合我们这个永续哈。那我今天要介绍我的一个搭档哈，就是我们的 call moderator Marvin Airbnb。然后我们谢谢这个金华集团的董事长潘世亮潘董事长。还有 KKday 的 Victor 曾。Then we have another guest. Now he is far away from Taiwan. He's based in Singapore. Perrin Mata, the regional director of APEC Airbnb. Perrin, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. It's wonderful to see such a great performance and so many of you. And I'm so sorry I can't be there today, but one day I will come there in person.
Yeah, great to see you online. And could you introduce yourself a little bit to let our audience to get to know you a bit more? And please, at least you tell us one fun fact about yourself.
Absolutely. My name is Perrin Mehta. I'm the regional director for Airbnb in Asia Pacific. I'm of Indian heritage, but originally from the UK. And I've lived in Japan, the US, and now in Singapore for the last 10 years. I have 2 young boys, very active young boys. And in my spare time, I do a lot of coaching of executives and startup founders. I'm very involved in the community, and I also do a lot of boxing. One fun fact is that I have not been to Taiwan yet, but I've been through the airport in Taipei many, many times. And one day I will come out the airport and visit you all.
Okay, then Taiwan is ready to welcome you to visit us in person. So, Perrin, now the floor is yours. Please share with us your presentation for today.
Wonderful, thank you very much. I will just project some slides. Thank you. Great, okay. I hope you can all see. Wonderful. So thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be with you today, albeit virtually, and I'm looking forward to the time when we can all meet in person. So I would love to spend just 5 minutes talking a little bit about what we've been doing at Airbnb to get ready for this new era in travel. And so I'll just talk a little bit about our founding story. I'll talk a little bit about how COVID has impacted our business, as it has probably many of you. And then I'll talk a little bit about what we are learning from our community of hosts and guests around the world about the new era of travel. So first of all, the birth of Airbnb. Our founders, many of you may have seen them before. They are Brian, Nate, and Joe. And they started what's now become a worldwide community from this room where there was a conference in town. And they realized that people were looking for a place to stay, but often couldn't access that. And so from this room, they started to figure out what a business and a community might look like for the world. And so from a very humble start, as you can see from this website, they really embodied that entrepreneurial spirit of trying many different things to see what the consumers and the community would really want from a new service like theirs. And so in 2011, there was initial traction in a few countries, as you can see, Europe and North America. But over the years, things became very popular as the service took off word of mouth and the community of hosts grew up around the world. So you can see in 2012, a few more lights. In 2013, even more. In 2014, even more. In 2015, even more. And in 2016, you start to see things really become bright in many countries around the world. And so today we have 4 million hosts on our platform, and we have over 1 billion guest arrivals on the platform today, which just talks about the size of this community around the world. And so fast forward to 2020, when all of our lives changed in many different ways, and I'm sure many of you have felt the same during this period. And we really took the opportunity of COVID to learn and reflect amongst ourselves and our community to really think through what could we do to help our challenged community to be successful. And so there's a list of some things that we worked on there, but I guess the main takeaway is that we know that when our community is successful, we as a company are also successful. And so we tend to spend a lot of our time and energy really thinking through what our community of hosts need and figuring out how we can provide it to them in many different parts of the world. So one example of this was, as people were no longer able to travel, they started to launch something called online experiences, where people from around the world could connect around cultural moments. And this complemented our already existing experiences business and community that we developed. I'm also an experienced host in Singapore, so if any of you ever come to Singapore, please, I would love to host you in Singapore when you come. And now looking forward, the new era of travel, we know a couple of things to be true. So the first is that guest behavior is changing. We know that people want to travel anytime, the destinations they're going to are more diverse, and the trips they're taking are longer. And we're really seeing this blending of working and living on Airbnb starting to happen in many places around the world. And with that come a couple of really important things. So the first is who you travel with is often more important than where you travel. And so we've done a lot of work around flexible searches so that people can go to a place that's convenient for them with the people that they love and care about. People are also thinking a lot about what experience will I have when I get there? And so we're combining our homes and experiences together to give people that perfect trip. And obviously top of mind for many people is safety, cleanliness, and probably most importantly is flexibility. Because if we know that there's one thing constant around this world now, it's really this idea of constant change, and we all have to be very adaptable to that. And so finally, in 2021, we did a big release where we shared over 100 updates and innovations to our entire service across Airbnb. So thank you for your attention. I'm really excited to be here today and to learn from you and to share a little bit about what we've been doing at Airbnb. And I'm looking forward to the discussion ahead of us. Thank you.
Thanks, Perrin. So next, we're going to welcome, Victor Tan, the CFO, Chief Financial Officer of KKday. So he has abundant experiences in travel industry as well as the startup internet industry. So he will share with us about, what KKday is and what KKday faced, during this pandemic. Thank you. Let's welcome Mr. Victor.
Thank you, Marvin, and thank you, the organizer, for having the opportunity to share a little bit about KKday. I know this topic is about sustainability. Maybe in the first 5 minutes of this kind of introduction, I'll introduce a little bit about KKday. I think from KKday's perspective, obviously, COVID had unprecedented impact on the travel industry. So just touch a little bit about how we were able to sustain through this process. It's 18 months in now into this COVID situation. So a little bit about that, and then we could, I'm sure we're going to be talking more about sustainability in the Q&A session as well. So KKday, the company itself is about 6 years old. The product was launched in 2015. Our founder, Chen Minmin, he's been in the travel industry for over 20 years. KKday is actually his fourth travel startup. Earlier travel startups like Easy Travel, and also in Taiwan, Yi Wang and Tanxin, he was early involvement, co-founders in these companies as well. So industry veteran, 20 plus years in the travel industry, Chen Minmin. KKday is his fourth travel startup. As an internet startup, we've been able to, very fortunately, raise capital to sustain our growth. So over the last 5-6 years, we've been able to raise over 100 million USD. So that's from international institutional investors to support this growth. So, within the travel space, we are very similar to other online travel agencies, but specifically, we're focused more on the local experience part. The local experience pie within the travel space is still very lowly digitalized. I think when you guys look at flights and hotels, it's probably 60% of that is digitalized. People are searching for flights and hotels and buying through them through online. While local experience is probably more 15 to 20%. So KKday in this space, in Asia Pac, we are the pioneer in kind of digitalizing this space. So very specifically focus on the digitalizing the local experience part of the opportunity. And I think when our founder started the company 6 years ago, he also saw big shifts in travel behaviors as well, right? I think one part is just mobile internet access getting more accessible, right? Other fundamental shifts are like budget airlines, right? There's more and more budget airlines for travelers to have flexible timing and cheap flights to travel around the region, around the world. These shifts drove like the usage of independent travelers, right? So that presented an opportunity for KKday to digitalize a lot of independent travelers. Once they land in destination, they're looking for local travel experience products. There's language barriers, there's many different kind of payment currency barriers. So it gives KKday an opportunity to provide value to these kind of independent travelers to be able to, in the palm of their hands, open up our app and search for related products and book on our platform, pay through our platform. If there's any issues with customer service, these customers can come to us to resolve issues. So 6 years ago, we saw this opportunity and started to capitalize on this opportunity. So basically, we're a website and app driven company, and our mission is to digitalize the local travel experience sector in Asia Pac. Right? So bringing up to today, we have 11 plus regional offices across Asia Pac, headquartered in Taiwan, big presence in Japan, Korea, and many destinations around Southeast Asia. On the supply side, over the last 6 years, we've digitalized over 200,000 related local experience SKUs, right? On the demand side, on the monthly active usage, we have over 8 million users, browsing our website, using our app to look for local experience products across the region. Pre-pandemic, we were mainly international traveler kind of use case. Post-pandemic, we pivot to more domestic travelers. So these are Taiwanese using KKday to book Taiwan products, or Japanese using KKday to book Japan travel products. So, the products runs a gamut of local transportation, Wi-Fi SIM card, to day tours, to very unique long-tail activities that we have. Myriads of diverse kind of products for people to be able to search, read user reviews, and book, and come to us if there's any issues. So quickly, a little bit about sustainability. I'll probably touch a little bit more in the panel. But when COVID hit, we were forced to kind of reorganize, right? I think one part that we did was pivot from international travel to domestic travel. The domestic travel scenario, I think domestic users know their local markets well, are looking for more long-tail, unique products. So we actually did an organizational change to, which was more centralized marketing and BD capabilities to more decentralized, allowing marketing and BD team to work together to figure out what local users want and go digitalize those products. So one part that we did during COVID is to become more decentralized, right? And allow the local teams to have more flexibility in figuring out what kind of product to bring online, and they're measured against how these products sell, right? And then another big part that we did during COVID period and push on more is to help this industry digitalize more, right? As discussed earlier, this industry is still very lowly digitalized. About 15-20% of the spending is online, still relatively low. So we have in Asia Pac, I think we're a leading player in SaaS software to help tourist activities and attraction vendors digitalize, right? It's a booking engine and a channel manager for them to, the reality with this industry, the reality is a lot of these vendors use an Excel to they're getting a lot of business from different online channels, but they use an Excel to update their products and informations and prices, right? With Rezio, they could digitalize this one shot and instantly connect to many different online channels. So I think something that we could elaborate a little bit later, but this is a big effort that we've been pushing during this COVID period to help the supply chain upgrade and digitalize. So I think with that, that's a quick overview of KKday, and look forward to sharing more about our company. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you for your informative presentation. Now let's see how we can locally experience this beautiful place, Nangang Bottle Cap Factory, and decentralize our body for a bit. Sometimes in order to maximize experience of any journey, in order to get more, we need to clear up our mind first. Today we have a little exercise to help us achieve that. Today I'm very glad to have Cloudgate Dance School here with us. And they have infused this experience of living with the art of dance. 旅行中，如果我们想要体验的更多，我们想要沉浸在这个当下，有 local experience 的话，很多时候我们要沉淀归零。所以今天为大家带来一场体验，由云门教室教我们如何放松并倾听自己身体的声音，然后感知到周围以及他人的温度。我们欢迎秋燕老师带领我们打开身体，打开心。
谢谢。好，现场所有的好朋友，大家好。那现在这个10分钟就由我们带领大家进入一个觉察身体的旅程。所以现在请大家可以站起来吗？然后可以把自己身上的包包、随身物品很安全的放在你的座位上。是，那也希望如果衣服也可以敞开是最棒的了。因为等一下我们要试着把它身体张开，从松身呼吸开始。所以请大家先找好您的位置，一个好的身体 body 的一个空间是最重要的。所以你们前后可以移开，然后可以将你的双手打开，因为等一下我们可能会有一个整个背靠的一个呼吸，因为真的很重要。对，所以前后可以敞开看看，不会碰到任何人，可以找到这个空间吗？对，然后前方的朋友们可以往前一点，对，后方也可以后退。OK， 大家准备好了吗？好，现在请你双脚打开，跟肩膀同宽，用你内在的眼睛去感受你的身体，脚掌很像那个大巨人的脚掌一样，变得非常非常的大，跟我们的大地结合，让我们跟地心引力做好朋友，因为它衬托着我们。头顶百会的地方正中间，好像种子发芽，不断向上攀升。所以我们跟天地都立在一起，肚脐很像赤道一样，好像分开南北两极。那别忘了你的背，整个背像大山一样让你依靠。所以我们有大地支撑我们，我们有大山的背，可以帮我们依靠的我们所有的重量。OK， 大家准备好了吗？轻轻的鼻子吸气，嘴巴呼。所以你会看到你的身体会消长，再一次吸，好像身体像气球一样膨胀，吐气，哇，整个吐掉，在吐的过程中承接到大地放下去。OK， 所以等一下我们膝盖后膝窝要放松，所以我们从手腕开始，所以一开始我们会从关节。对，那请你们，我们等一下跟着音乐一起，你们就跟着我的引导一起做。重点把你的心敞开，没有对错，我们全部都在一起，跟所有的大宇宙、小宇宙都在一起。好，谢谢大家，我们从音乐开始。好，现在手腕，等一下我们手腕的震荡，重量往下，所以是重量，不是力气。对，呼吸，很好，手腕，注意力放在手腕，加上手肘。对，震荡一直往下，重量，对我们身体的重量，呼吸还在，头顶的天，脚掌的大地，加上肩，很好，再吐，再多一点，好，加上膝盖放松，对，整个震荡，力量吐出来放下，对，感恩这个大地承载我们，加上髋关节，再多，按吐，整个放掉，再来按的吸。重量继续往下，很好 ，2， 好，整个融化放松。我们从肩膀吸气，经过接近我们的耳朵，吐掉放，继续坐下放松，融化再吸，憋气一下吐， 很好，再下沉融化身体的起，脚掌踩，吐，很好，继续放松吐气，再来踩，尽量靠近耳朵，吐气，下沉，从头手腕，对，这次应该更放松了，很好，加油，很好，加上手肘腕的重量，找到你的呼吸，觉察，往里面看。很好，加上肩，很好，力量继续往下，对，送给大地，加上膝盖放松，对，很好，手不要盯上来，往下，对，很好，加上髋关节在坐，好像坐在一个很稳定的椅子，对，每一个关节都松开，继续 and 再来震荡，继续勇敢一点，屁股往下坐，往后的。对，很好，放松。我们这一次胸膛敞开，吐气从腹部一节一节，看能不能找到。吸，撑开，继续迎向阳光一样吐，背往后靠，再多一点，按吸，按吐，真的吐掉，按的吸气，按吐。很好，我们双肩绕圆，从前经过耳朵，敞开到后，后夹肌夹好，放松，再一次往前，中间夹，吐，哇，很好，加上手，脚往下继续深耕，翻掌，哇，敞开最远最远，再来一次，融化到地心，脚掌踩。把它背起来，再一次，按开，很好，按回到中间，全部一起，再继续，手放掉，继续往下，很好，身体不要倾斜哦，正的，很好，好，把右脚再关起来，按的收，大腿内侧收紧，很好。继续呼吸，打开的样，继续震荡，好，收，换脚，哇，对，很好，坐下来，真的坐下来，好，打开的样，继续放松，对，再加压，整个松掉，脖子也是，对，很好，只存在你的呼吸。继续按的呀，非常好，再多一点，整个呼吸出来，我应该会听得到呼吸的声音。and 吐，很好，一定要震荡到一个极致，一个地方你才会有感受。好，慢慢我们回，幅度变小，慢慢脚踩地，扎根，对，像大树的背，脚掌。像种子生根一样，螺旋往地心，继续扎，很好。头顶种子继续发芽，眼睛可以轻轻闭起来，找到你内在的自己，很中心，很核心。头顶着天，脚深跟着大地，膝盖放松。背靠着大山，继续调息你的呼吸，去觉察你现在的吸气，慢慢吐掉，很好，再来继续你的呼吸，吸气的时候，你全身好像有那个光芒，继续不断的、慢慢的扩展。好，眼睛张开，吐气下沉，背放松，手指尖从地上捧起一个大太阳，最宽最大，整个身体背靠着大山，脚掌着地，继续拔，很好，继续扎根深根下去，翻掌，吐气像大鹏鸟一样降落，膝盖放松，继续吐 吐，光再吸，再吐，再一次，再深一点往下沉。你继续长手指尖，继续往最高的地方，很好，翻掌，脚继续扎下去，对，很好，继续降落，胳肢窝一节一节把它收回，很好，再一次呀，继续更远更宽阔，对，手指头交叠，扣住，吐口气，膝盖背放松，翻掌，往天空走。好，脚掌继续扎，肩膀放松，像弯弯的彩虹往你的右边，可是你的左脚要继续往下踩哦。很好，踩回，拔高，轻轻的把手放在头后方，手肘扣回，肚子往后，背往后靠，膝盖弯，把头往下轻轻的压下来，对，头放松，背弯，手肘扣下来，很好，慢慢撑张开。脚掌踩地，继续拔。好，胸膛往上看，好像躺着一样。对，继续把手肘撑开，继续维持你的呼吸。回，把头慢慢搬回来，吐口气，膝盖放松，脚掌扎根，再提起。换边，继续拔。对，你的右脚继续往下踩，可以的人继续。回中间，很好。你的右手扣住你的左手手腕，肩膀放松。我们一下下，沉，坐，对，屁股往后，眼睛轻轻的闭起来，一下下，回归你自己。内在，请听你内在的声音。现在呼吸的速度。屁股往下坐，背大山在支撑着你，脚底大地在支撑着我们，全部我们都是立在这天地之间。跟着你的呼吸，将所有阳光的温度透过我们的毛细孔吸进来，进到我们身体里面做循环，透过吐气的时候往下沉，送给大地，不断的循环，一直不断的跟自己在一起。现在我们再往下沉，吸口气，脚掌扎根，把背拔起来，慢慢伸直脚。可是不是透过膝盖，而是大地承接我们的重量，慢慢立起来。吸口气，将双手分开，像大鸟的翅膀，很自然的往下，慢慢收。头顶着天，脚踩着大地，用自己的速度收回，轻轻放在肚脐以下，腹部的地方，很好。吐气，再吸一口，吸，肚子会微微的膨胀，全身吐。再一次吸 ，and 吐，很好。慢慢把眼睛张开，手搓一搓，脚动一动，还好吗？有哈，你看气血里面的循环跟外面是没有分别的，所以永续不只是所有的地球的一切，应该从我们自己开始。尤其我们的身体，林怀民老师都说，身体是我们一辈子的好朋友。真的，先从爱自己开始。也邀请大家呢，持续的动身体，因为它真的是太重要了。有一个跟自己可以 合而为一的身体在一起，你才能引领我们走向更多生命不同的旅程。真的，谢谢大家，谢谢你们，谢谢。
谢谢秋燕老师以及云门教师。当我们在深呼吸吐纳的时候，在这个瞬间，在大家感受这空间的氛围的时候，就变成了一个独一无二、只有属于自己生命当中的特别的体验。Now we have freshened up our minds. It's time to learn more from our panelists. I would like to welcome on stage again Jason and Marvin. Now the floor is yours. Please step on stage.
Okay, I would like to invite Stephen and Victor to be with us on the stage, and also Perrin. Perrin, where are you? Okay. Did you also did the exercise with us in Singapore?
I did, and it was much better than drinking coffee. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. But please have a seat.
Okay, so yeah, it's interesting that we started from an inner sustainability. Now we're talking about like outer sustainability. So today our topic is around sustainability, and we all know that tourism industry is actually at the forefront, to face the tsunami, of the pandemic. Everybody suffered in the past 20 months. So when we are talking about sustainability, we know that we need to be, we need to survive first before, we can really sustain. So I wonder when we talk about survive, so all the panelists, what did you do, in the past 20 months, to help you survive? There must be a lot of changes in the industry. What did you do? What learning do you have? What the measures that you did are really helpful? What are not? May you share something, about like how you in response, respond to the impact of pandemic? Maybe we can start from Stephen. Yeah.
Well, I'm really not an expert on sustainability, but when it comes to survival, I think the last 20 months is sort of like last 20 years combined. Each day is like a week. In a hotel business, we used to do probably 5 promotion packages a year. Christmas, summer, family, maybe a birthday party package. Last year alone, we did 80 packages. So it was a combination of, the last 10 or 20 years. But I think it's very important that what we did last year is not just about us. We rediscover really the meaning of why we're here. Now, first of all, when the pandemic first starts, of course, it hit us very hard. And we realized that we cannot survive alone. And the industry cannot survive alone. Everybody has to work together, including the government. So the first step is really about public-private partnership. And at that time, I proposed really, when there's no business, salary subsidy for the industry. And then luckily, it was broadened to cover more than 10% of the population, other affected industries. But the most important thing that we did was a public-private partnership last year was, imagine, there's no business in the hotel. And in our hotel in Taipei alone, we have 1,000 people. So there's nothing to do. And I made a commitment at that time for no layoff. And so luckily, due to private-public partnership, the government support us to do an unprecedented training program. 100 hours per person for 2 months or 3 months, period. And during this time, not only do we cross-train digital, we work so hard on understanding local culture because Taiwanese, we travel a lot. We know more about Tokyo than Taipei, most people, or our homeland. And the way we work on it is we work with tour guides who have lost their jobs, but they know a lot more than our local culture. So we work with the tour guides so they become our teacher. So not only do we work among ourselves, but due to the public-private partnership, we also work with our ecosystem community. Yeah. And then of course, I want to take an example because we have different hotels in Taiwan and around the world. We have region, we have Just Sleep, we have different silks. Now, the city 5-star hotels are particularly hard hit due to border control. Now, when you take a vacation, I assume you're living in Taipei or Singapore. You don't want to go to a Taipei city hotel for vacation, right? You go elsewhere. So plus border control, what can you do initially? So we sort of look into ourselves. And we have an affiliate who is equally devastated by the pandemic, which is Regent 7 Seas Cruise. We reference that and say, hey, you do a lot of things on a cruise. You don't go anywhere, right? Yeah. You're on a ship. Yeah. I mean, of course, you get on and off, but I mean, on a ship, you don't. But then there's entertainment, there's shopping, there's a lot of food, a lot of movies, a lot of even casino, everything. So cruise for us is a floating hotel, and we hire only hotel people to go work in our cruise. So the role to our recovery is really taking on a cruise example and setting up city cruises. So we rediscover ourselves. And Taiwan really got hit since May, right? That's our first outbreak. So then our restaurant business also shut down. Now, first of all, hotel shut down, now restaurant shut down. What do you do? And so we all have to go digital delivery. But luckily, because we also own Domino's Pizza, so we're able to leverage the delivery and digital system. And in 3 months, we make up half of our business. And now, thanks to pandemic, the crisis also created this opportunity for us to grow from our Take Region Home delivery website into a cloud kitchen concept. So it's becoming a huge opportunity for us to get into new businesses. So public-private partnership is critical. The role of government in the future, it's unthinkable how much money, and how much resources are there. Working with our community and our people, making commitments to our people, and then finding new ways within ourselves, not looking at copying what others do, but looking deep and discover our key to survival and therefore future opportunity. I think it's very important for us to turn around.
I just wonder, how come you can make your organization so agile and then responds to the change so fast? It seems like, and who came up this kind of idea to turn your hotel into a cruise ship, and in how many days you make it? I'm just very curious about this.
Well, I mean, I always feel corporate culture eats strategy for breakfast. You can have the most brilliant strategy, but if your people are not together with you, if you don't have the right people, forget it. You're not going to have a very good outcome. Yeah. But if you have a good people, even without strategy, you're going to end up pretty well. So what we did was initially, we made a commitment to keep all of our people.
Okay.
And then.
But I think it's hard. Most of the hotel, they're thinking about downsize. They're thinking about.
Well, I mean, I figure, hey, we made some money before, and then, hey, you don't ditch, right? Your friends, just first sight of trouble. We're probably the only major hotel group that did not even lay off anybody in the last 2 years because most people relented this year. But anyway, but I think that commitment, for me, the sustainability comes from people. That's a foundation.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's our relationship with our people and community that form the basis for everything else we talk about. So once we build that, well, it's a commitment and a trust, and people can fly. Right?
Okay.
So on the basis of trust and commitment and sustainability, it is I think it's the most important part of social responsibility. Yeah.
Thank you. So how about you, Victor?
Yes. So obviously, I think COVID had a big impact on the travel industry. For KKday, before the pandemic, we were mainly serving cross-border travel. So when pandemic hit, the first thing closed was the borders, and our business dropped to zero. If anything, negative, because we had to deal with cancellations and give back refunds. Right. So it was a very hard transition. I think partly, I think important kind of aspect in leading us through this kind of very turbulent time is our founder. He's been in the industry for 20 years, so he's been through SARS, he's been through financial crisis. So I think this time around, he was able to maintain a steadfast composure and set the tone for the team. Right, I think those are very invaluable experiences, having gone through those cycles before. The other things I think that we put in place was, one part is to bolster our balance sheet. Right? We were very fortunate during COVID period to have raised additional new capital. We raised about 75 million USD last year in the midst of COVID. So I think that's one thing, to bolster your balance sheet, to make sure you could have sufficient capital to weather uncertainties going forward, right? So that's one thing that we solidify. I think to echo to what Steven said, I think government support, right, and help subsidizing employees and keeping jobs in place, I think was a very important part too, and we very much appreciate the government support in doing that. KKday has, not as many employees, but 500-600 employees as well that we were able to largely keep in place. Other things, I think, for an internet company, I think aside from headcount costs, other costs are more variable costs. Like big costs are like marketing expenses. We were able to, turn that off right away, right, and encourage our team to think about how do we get our brand out there, acquire users more efficiently, right? So there's even more focus about sustainability and how do you acquire users more effectively, and how much money can you make from this user going forward versus, maybe in pre-pandemic days where it's more purely growth oriented, right? So I think from an expense standpoint, just finding a more balance, right? And we're lucky that as an internet company, there's a lot of variable cost component that we could kind of turn on and off. The last part, I think, and most importantly, is just kind of, being optimistic, right? And, our CEO, he's been through this, and being steadfast and optimistic. If borders are closed, eventually, people will still need to go out, and there's domestic travel opportunity. So we pivoted the team, kept the team and pivoted them towards more domestic travel opportunity. Domestic travel obviously is very different from international travel in that international travel, people go to the most popular destination. You build that up, then it's relatively easier. It's more standardized kind of process. With domestic travel, you need to more decentralize each local team, our teams in Taiwan, our teams in Japan, our teams in Korea, Southeast Asia. It's not very homogeneous. Each location is very different in terms of what the local users want traveling locally. And many times they know the local landscapes very well, so we need to go identify more unique kind of tours activities and attraction related products. So more decentralized, we did a reorganization, decentralized the team, actually combined the marketing and BD team together to work together more tightly. Marketing team needs to know what users want. BD team synchronizes that part and go find the right product, right? So I think that's one other big thing that we did. I think kind of 18 months plus into this COVID period now, we've been seeing green shoots of recovery, right? Driven by domestic travel that we didn't really have this business pre-COVID. So Actually we're 70-80% recovered to pre-COVID levels, just driven by domestic travel right now. So those are high levels, couple things that we kind of put in place. As an organization, it's very flat, so communication is very seamless. What the top brass are thinking about in the message gets translated down right away. What's happening in the front lines gets translated up right away. I think that's a very important aspect of kind of just, adapting and navigating this uncertain times. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Victor. So Parent, probably you can share a different story with us. Since Airbnb is a global company and you are a global platform, so what did you do for the past 20 months, sorry?
Thank you. The short answer is we learned how to listen and we learned how to ask really good questions. And really what I mean by that is we realized pretty early on that no one really knew what reality would be, and we all had to become learners and beginners for the first time. And part of that is really resetting all the assumptions that you have. All of us, whether we're leaders of our families, of our teams, of our companies, of our communities, whatever it is, we all had to adopt that beginner mindset and really learn together through the pandemic. And so the first thing we really decided to do was we wanted to really focus on all our stakeholders. And by stakeholders, I mean our employees, our guests, our hosts, and some of our external partners. And so, a couple of examples, we did some host listening sessions with hosts in around 40 to 50 different cities around the world to ask them, firstly, how we could support them and how they could support one another. And so that was one of the biggest things that we did. And actually from those listening sessions, we learned that our experienced hosts wanted to offer online experiences. And so within the space of about 12 days, we very quickly spun up this brand new product called Online Experiences and offered it around the world. So that's one specific example. But secondly, kind of looking forward to the point around resilience and optimism, we kept reminding ourselves and our teams that to travel is a basic human behavior and a desire, and people are always longing for human connection. And so even if the pandemic is sustained for a long period, we know that one day people will come back, they want to travel, they want to connect, and they want to belong. And so we really use that as our North Star. And so we've started to look forward on how we can start to operate in that area. So a couple of examples. We just launched the Orange Daily Mountain Stay hosted by the mayor of Hualien County in Taiwan. And we did a study with Oxford Economics to understand the economic benefits of hosting on Airbnb and the number of jobs that that's created around the Asia Pacific region. We also started to adapt to what the guests were telling us around trust and safety, hygiene, and enhanced cleaning. And of course, if you look after your team, they can look after the hosts and the community in a really good way. So we introduced a lot of wellness programs for our team members just to make sure that they were comfortable.
Thanks for the panelists. So the first question is about like immediate response to the pandemic. But I a little bit wonder, actually Stephen just touched that a little bit about employees, organizations. So we know that it is actually not that easy, to make sure that organization can follow every steps. That just like you mentioned, that culture is very important. So I wonder that what kind of skill set or what kind of organizational culture or what just a way that you can leverage to make sure that your organization can be ready to face any kind of this crisis, that the lesson you learn from this and what you want to adopt in your future of your organizational management. So maybe each of you can share a little bit of your learning. Maybe starting also from Stephen. Okay, maybe Victor.
Well, I think for us, it's sort of as a disruptor or as an innovator in the travel industry, right? I think we from day one, it's within our company's DNA to be sort of need to be different, right? And need to adapt to the situation and find something that I think we could build off of, right? Yeah, I think kind of as a newer, relatively younger company that needs to create something that is differentiated from day one. Our mindset is always kind of need to innovate and evolve and deal with uncertainties, right? And overcome uncertainties. I think nothing was sort of set in place. We were starting from zero, right? So I think certainly, you know, that enables the team to be adaptable and go figure out things, right? And not do things that are already in place. So I think it's, you know, within the company's kind of DNA. I think communication-wise, it's already very flat kind of culture, right? And kind of efficient kind of communication, I think, is certainly very, very important, right? And understanding what's going on in the front lines and what the management is thinking about.
And parent, I think it's probably will be more challenge for you because you know, you are not only working with your internal staff within the Airbnb. You need to work for millions and millions of hosts around the globe. And how can you make sure your message deliver is very, very how to say, very smooth or very precise to all the hosts, and how can you make sure all the hosts they can understand what Airbnb are going to do as a partner?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think, you know, many of us are still learning throughout this process, but I can share what we've found to work pretty well. It's really around separating the why, the what, and the how. And so I think the why has to come, in many cases, top down, or it has to be at least very clear and specific. But I think the opportunity where you can co-create with your community, with your employees, is really on the what, and definitely on the how, where you can leave it to people's creativity to figure out the best solutions. And so, you know, as I mentioned around online experiences, that was one where we articulated the problem to our community of what we were trying to do and really tried to understand what they thought the ideal situation would be. And then we co-created this new product inside 12 days together. So I think that's what we found to be particularly useful, is being very clear on maybe the vision or the mission, but helping others co-create the strategy or the tactics on how to respond to change.
Okay, thank you. And probably I have a new question for Stephen. I think we are talking about sustainability. And I know you do a lot of sustainability program, and you work with a smallhold farmer. They provide a lot of, how to say, vegetable, fish to your hotels. And my question is, does it, because you are also a public listed company, and does the shareholder they really care about the sustainability, or they are more care about your financial performance, for example, the return on investment?
Well, of course, the shareholders care more about return on investment. But sustainability, you can make it into good business. You can make a good business while doing good too. We actually started this journey with local farm. Well, as you know, hotels actually have very big volume purchases, so we need to work with all kinds of different suppliers. So supply chain are import, local, and all that. And but we also work with lots of Michelin star guest chefs, you know, starting 20, 30 years ago. And every major Michelin star chef, when the first thing they came to Taiwan, they marvel at the produce, the quality of produce, because they asked to visit the farms. So we take them to the farms, and they're just amazed on the farms and the produce and the fisheries in Taiwan. Yeah. I'll give you an example. When we start working with Andre Zhang, he was in Singapore 10 years ago. We took him through the farms in the south, and at the end, we both contracted the farms, so the farm was exporting to Singapore to his Andre restaurant. And this is a farm that specializes in micro vegetables, small potatoes, small peas, really high-tech stuff. So we've started this journey actually with our chefs. And to give you another example, we contract fishing boats directly in Taitung. So daily they will bring us fresh seafood. But that means organizationally you have to do away with menu. But luckily we have buffet operations where we really, it's the freshest seafood you can ever get. There's no middleman, it's completely fresh. So it's, and it's good business because our guests get the best seafood, We're working with the best farmer. We're promoting culture. We are supporting local business, local farmers, co-ops. We're giving opportunities to our communities, to small businesses, to entrepreneurs. So that part alone is a great, sustainability model on what we do. Yeah, and national park too. We do the same.
Wow. So Victor, could you share with us what did you do? Normally, I know you work with a lot of travel agents for the local program, and how can you make sure the local program is very unique and the experience is very good for for clients?
Yeah. So during this COVID period, the whole industry is suffering as well. Our suppliers were suffering. I think couple of things that we did. I think one is figuring out what suppliers, how to bring in more business, right? And certain markets that we're in, they're in lockdown, right? So we figure out different ways to maybe, like in Taiwan, a lot of people go to Yilan Yilan's famous for their spring onions, right? And people go there and pluck spring onions and make spring onion rolls, right? And we bring a lot of visitors there. Because of COVID, that was shut down. So we work with this vendor to actually help them sell spring onions. They have physical spring onions that when our customers on our platform can't go there physically, they could buy these spring onions from these vendors, right? So over the course of the last 18 months, I think we developed over 200 different types of kind of local delicacy packages, right? Another one that was very popular through the KKday platform is Tainan Minxinbao, Tainan All-Star Gourmet Package, right? Our team worked with the Tainan local government to identify all the different local delicacies, right? People can't go there to consume these delicacies. You could go through KKday to buy this package, right? So that's one way, in our little way to help bridge and help them get through this kind of difficult times. Virtual tours is something that we did as well, like in Japan. A lot of Japanese kind of come to Taiwan now, right? But they can on KKday book a virtual Jiufen tour that is guided by a real tour guide, right? We'll physically send them Taiwan tea and Taiwan pineapple cakes to this Japanese consumer that they could, when they're watching this virtual tour, they could consume, these products. So those are things I think, being creative and finding ways to kind of help the supply chain get through this difficult times. Another theme I think is a very good opportune time is to help this industry digitalize better too. Like I said earlier, the local tours activities, attraction space is still very, very lowly digitalized. Large majority of these suppliers are still operating within Excel and updating, not very synchronized in terms of the availability of their inventory and what's showing online, right? So we have this system called Rezio. It's a SaaS software that can help the vendors digitalize. Some of these vendors are larger vendors like theme parks. Theme parks, they're selling more ticketless online ticket distribution that are ticketless without physical tickets. During COVID period, even though the theme parks are open, but they need to do load management or contactless solution is even more important to allow consumers to feel safe, right? So Rezio has all these kind of capabilities that help theme parks upgrade their ticket distribution capabilities, and to the point of even the hardware solutions of these theme park gates are upgraded with standardized scanning capabilities, temperature measuring capabilities, and et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of things I think we're doing with our suppliers to help them cope with this difficult situation. But more importantly, there will be light at the end of the tunnel, right? I think as we speak, we're kind of seeing more light at the end of the tunnel, and things are opening up more to help them digitalize, right? Because that's sort of where the consumer trends are going. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And parent, I think nowadays there are so many industries, so many sectors, they are all talking about experience. I think Disney talking about experience. Our meeting industry also talking about experience. Entertainment industry, they're talking about experience. So what does the experience mean to Airbnb, and then now a lot of travelers, they are looking for really authentic experience. How can you make sure that every host in different corner of the globe, they really provide the authentic program? Since you have so many programs online, and how can you work with them closely and to really provide Airbnb experience?
Yeah, it's a great question. Ultimately, everything for us is around the connection and the belonging. So we want there to be some form of human connection between the host and the guest when they take an experience, and also between the guest and the guest. So guests who might not know each other can have an opportunity to connect maybe for the first time. So a couple of things. One is we provide some guardrails or some standards around things we'd expect to see from an experience. So that could be some form of local expertise, some form of access that maybe you can't get elsewhere. And we have certain quality criteria that we share with our hosts to help them onboard onto the platform. So that's probably the biggest thing. And secondly is we keep the funnel pretty open so that we can learn from our hosts in terms of what they want to offer to the wider world. And so by that, you have a two-way feedback loop where we're able to articulate to the hosts what our expectations are. And the hosts are also able to educate us on what they think guests might want. And that leads to everyone driving a better outcome together. So that's one point. And then secondly, on the sustainability side of things, experiences really helps us democratize travel because it opens up that opportunity to people who maybe never previously considered themselves to be part of the travel industry and are just everyday human beings with a particular skill or passion that they want to share. And so that's one area that we think about sustainability because it really opens up that opportunity for local communities to showcase what they are proud of to the rest of the world.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, so we've been touching, several aspects of sustainability. So Victor, you're the only, money guy here today. You're the CFO. So we know that actually, when we touch that as sustain, you need to be economically sustained. That's the first of everything. So, but I want to ask this question a little bit different thing. So, in Chinese, we usually say that crisis is also an opportunity. 危机就是转机. So, for a company startup like you, that you not only you need to keep the balance sheet, on the other hand, you need to find the money for the company to scale. Especially, we all know that after the pandemic, we will see a big travel rebound happening. So you need to be ready for that. So can you shed light, on what you're doing, or how do you demonstrate yourself, to be a good investment, for your potential investors?
Certainly, yeah. So maybe a little bit off topic about sustainability, but I think we're in the travel business is a very big addressable market. It's a business that I think I think many of the panelists here can allude to is something that's leisure travel, especially leisure travel, is hard to displace, right? It's just human nature to want to go and experience and discover, right, and consume this. It's very hard to displace. I think through the last 18 months, whenever different markets that we operate in, when the lockdown ends, we've seen very strong elastic spending bounce back very fast, right? For instance, in middle of August in Taiwan, when Taiwan started opening up again, that spending on our platform bounced back very, very fast, very, very elastic. So I think we take comfort in that. Very a large addressable market already. It's not nothing revolutionary. People are already spending. Now it's more digitalizing. So I think making this local experience more accessible. You can find more products, more user reviews, make it easy to book and pay, and you have any issues through one platform, I think is something that can offer a lot of value to travelers, right? Versus historically, it may be more oriented around package tours or people offline walk-ins, right? So I think there's immediately in front, there's a big opportunity for all of us to kind of address and help the consumer and supply chain digitalize. It's a win-win for everybody, and certainly KKday is a pioneer in that. Yeah, respect.
And I have a question for Stephen. Since you are, I think the Silk Hotel Group, you have been diversify your business back to many years ago. I think it's probably 20 years ago you start to diversify your business. You are not only run a business hotel in Taipei City, you also have different resort hotel in different city, and you also have a very successful F&B business, outside the different restaurants. What can you share with us your strategy on diversification of your business?
Well, I mean, if I sum it up, it's really local leadership and engaging local communities. Take example, we have a Taroko National Park, which is a spectacular national park. Probably the most spectacular national park. And we're the only really 5-star hotel in this. And where sustainability comes in again is in the people. 2/3 of our employees there are from local village. They are aboriginals. Our security chief is the village chief. Okay. Wow. So we call them 酋长. So and then our produce come from a Xibao farm, which is 10 minutes drive, and also from local communities. And everywhere we go in the world, in even cities in China or even in Tainan, we always call out for instance, in Tainan silks. We call out all the people from Tainan living in Taipei to go down, to work there, to return home. Yeah. So local sustainability and community engagement is key. And another thing I want to touch upon about sustainability in our business, especially in the pristine resort destinations, is the problem of overcrowding. Okay? This is very serious. And as you can imagine, Taroko National Park, the whole purpose is to preserve the natural resources. And it gets very crowded. So, since the pandemic, now, the local hotels are packed. We have to turn down guests all the time, right? But our silks place in Taroko kept our occupancy is 70%. Mm-hmm.
How about the?
Not 100%. Okay. We turn down thousands of people to prevent overcrowding. To our, it's not only to the property but also to national park, because we think in the long term we'll be able to preserve a much better total experience and meet the really sustainability goal, which is good for business, because we want to be there for a while. We don't want to be there just for 10 years.
Thank you so much. I think I would like to open a question to our audience, or even online audience. Do you have any questions you want to ask our panelists today? Yeah, Akim.
I follow the government policies, and I follow Stephen and the industry quite frequently, and I believe very strongly that there is a very potential domestic travel pattern now, and sustainability is all what we must do, and we all need to work on a joint effort to support that. On the Taiwan experience, I believe that that's the right term, and I would scream that out to the world. The Taiwan experience is, I like your terms, to utilize local talents, local ingredients, make deals with the fishermen and so on. So I think that's very successful. My question to you is on the floor. Do you have any strategy in mind or in the pipeline for post-pandemic sustainable business? Because according to the government officials, I just need to quote that at the moment, they're looking on the relaxation on the border control once 30% of the population has received full vaccination, and 70% on the single vaccination. This is a figure, I believe, I must salute the Singapore government. They do a fantastic job. They put something in the pipeline. Australia is coming to follow, I believe it was 17th of December, they're going to open the borders with certain prevention measurements. And so I believe there is a possibility that the Taiwan government, the CECC, and also the tourism industry will see a return of a business from abroad with certain measurements obviously underlined, and so post-pandemic strategies, and also what would a hotel operator or KKday, what would you bring out to the regional market, I believe, on the first stage to throw out packages? What's your operational idea to make the people, I put this in converted commas, safe? You know, people want to feel safe when they travel, you know, and with Marvin, with Airbnb in the background, and what's his name? Karen Hai in Singapore, you know, I salute you because I think your country is doing a wonderful job there, you know, and we must raise our voice for that. So again, back to the two questions, post-pandemic strategies, and what would a hotel and a travel agent do to attract the people to come to Taiwan to visit us again? Thank you so much.
Thank you. So Stephen, would you like to share your the first question? Do you have any strategy for the post-pandemic market?
Actually, during the pandemic, I mean, beginning of this year, we launched a new brand called Salon X. Sort of like, it's a hybrid product.
Okay.
And it's the first project is going to be in the Linko Media and Science Park. And because we see, I mean, basically, I mean, you know, everybody sees the same trend. You know, people can live and work and travel anywhere. So we are seeing fewer trips taken, but longer stays. And the lines between work and play and live, or the spatial definitions of lobby, restaurants, or you know, wellness area is gonna be all blurred. So it's kind of like a SUV, you know. It's a mix. It's a Jeep, but then you drive it in the city. Yeah. So our first answer strategy is really creation of this new brand, Salon X, and that's going into, you know, like Hsinchu, and it's really for the new world, you know, and of course within it is probably the highest hygiene and safety standards, because we're very lucky. The first Taipei quarantine hotel is a Just Sleep. So at that time there was no SOP. So we're asked to write an SOP. So we had to write an SOP for all the quarantine hotels.
Yeah.
So we work with WTTC. So we set the standard for Taiwan in terms of quarantine travel. So right now we have, I mean, you know, we're talking about 10连制, right? People 10连制. We even have food. Even in our food, all the delivery boxes,
you have all the footprint.
They are who the makers are and when they are made.
Okay.
Yeah, so we go 10连制 all the way from people to food to the supply chain now. Yeah, and of course, you name it, contactless. You know, and latest could be an AI recognition for COVID, because, you know, we're working with a company that use AI technology to recognize strictly from facial whether you have possibility of COVID. So you can really screen through very, very fast now in the future. Yeah, because there are certain symptoms, you know, facial eye symptoms that you can spot. They're already, you know, so we are working on the latest technology for hygiene and safety. Yeah, and it's going to be implemented in our hotels and also Silk X. I mean, it's our very fast-moving brands right now, the Silk X, yeah.
So Perrin, would you like to share with us your thoughts on the strategy for post-pandemic? And also please give us some advice, since you've never been to Taiwan, and how can we promote ourselves after this pandemic, and to have you really physically visit Taiwan in the future? What is the key point will attract you to come?
Yeah, so in terms of preparing for life post-pandemic, I think the key thing is really listening to your community. For us, it's our hosts and our guests and our team members on the ground in each country, and just really understanding what people are seeing and what they're learning about user behavior so that we can keep being relevant and keep providing people with what they want. In terms of Taiwan and visiting, it really touches on the themes I talked about. We think sustainability is around allowing local people to showcase their culture and provide that for the world to see. And so I would encourage just more of the same, really, is really trying to understand what makes Taiwan special and unique, and finding a way to showcase that to the world and welcome visitors from around the world to experience that magic.
Wow, thank you. And
Actually,
sure.
I think I just want to bring to attention, because this is very important, because we're using UV technology. We're installing those UV ultraviolet machines in all our air filters.
Okay.
So
wow.
this should be done by all the hotels and all the office buildings. Okay, this is really fundamental. Yeah, that kills 99.9% of virus and germs.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the hygiene standard would be very
It's all
high,
invisible
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Wow, thank you.
Using technology.
Yeah.
Taiwan technology.
Wow, Taiwan technology.
Yeah.
Cool. Good to know. So Victor, how KK Day can attract more, according to what Akim asked, can attract more foreigner to come to Taiwan after the pandemic?
Sure. So, I would say we're already a very pan-Pacific presence with the over 11 markets. Right now, we have a lot of users in Japan going through KKday to book Japanese products, Koreans going through KKday to book Korean products, Taiwanese going through KKday to book Taiwanese-related travel products. So I think we're at the cusp of where borders are step-by-step kind of opening up. The first example may be Taiwan and Palau. So KKday business development team, very nimble, very proactive in anticipating these opportunities. So we're one of the earlier platforms to be able to secure flight tickets to go to Palau and capture, and be at the forefront of kind of promoting this initial travel bubble kind of opportunity. I believe over the next 6 to 12 months, step by step across the region, more markets will, in different ways, open up their borders, right? And there will be a lot of opportunities along that. KKday, the value of KKday obviously is a lot of these local experience, information, content, suppliers, tours, activities are very fragmented, very localized, and local language, very offline. So just by being at the forefront of digitalizing, this industry creates transparency, accessibility. People can go through our website and app to easily search and find, right? In some ways, it's also, creating more, helping people discover the more unique and non-standard, and kind of diversifying, traffic to many different types of products and destinations as well, right? So I think we've been doing that before pandemic. We'll continue to work hard and doing that. I think last part is because of pandemic, it forced us to build a domestic travel business. I think domestic travel and international travel is supplementary, right? From a travel operator, sometimes, you spend a lot of money trying to acquire a user, right? And historically, we've been serving more pre-pandemic, more international travel. So this user may be on our platform 1 to 3 times a year, right? Because of the pandemic situation, we were forced to think about domestic travel and build domestic travel up. From what we observed, domestic travel frequency is it can be a lot higher. If you have the right products, every month they'll be coming back to you, right? So from a CFO standpoint, this is sustainability, right? When you spend so much investing in acquiring a user, and now you have more products, whether domestic and eventually when borders open up with international travel, and you're engaging these users more, this is an even more sustainable position that we put ourselves in going forward, right? So a couple different perspectives here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that different people from different perspectives provide, like from a just hygiene-wise, community-wise, product-wise, how we prepare for the post-pandemic preparation. So, do we have more questions from the audience?
And I would like to recognize. Oh, there is a question over there, and Professor Zhang, yeah.
I'm Jason from National Taiwan University. One quick question. People talk about waiting for next normal, okay? But it's kind of trade-off between economic and the prevention of so-called COVID-2X, COVID-19. So what your vision about next normal? Because I'm kind of confused. We are waiting for next normal. I heard lots of leaders from other countries give a vision of next normal because we have to face the challenge of epidemic, how to play or dancing around with those epidemic. I think it's very important for travel or hotel business. Even academic, we have waiting for a lot of students outside of Taiwan. But what is your definition for next normal? Thank you.
So I have 3 visionary just sit next to me. And what's your vision about the future world, about the future of our business in the?
No, this is a big question. Everybody's wondering. Well, for me, we're probably living at 2025 now. So the pandemic sort of accelerated a lot of what was already out there. Look, Zoom was out there 10 years, So there's really nothing really disruptive other than the pandemic itself. And so it's an accelerator. So we're at 2025. So really, from a structural standpoint, we could be in a new business cycle, right? So we had a very sharp recession that lasted for, I don't know, globally maybe 6 months last year, and we're in a quick recovery. But is the recovery sustainable? Because the recovery is, I cannot even call that public-private partnership. It's it's just pumping money, right? So at least what I see for travel and tourism is it depends on the region. I think for area and countries that are affected by the lockdown, the longer you're affected, the more changes you will have. Yeah, for instance, U.S. will have complete different landscape afterwards than Asia. U.S. In terms of like office, San Francisco Bay Area, high-tech towns like Boston, nobody wants to go back to work, okay? But then the more traditional, New York, L.A., more traditional cities and states, they're 50% back to work. But San Francisco, Boston, those gig towns, 20% right now. And look at Asia. If you lump the Greater China, because we have a zero policy of infection, right? That means the government is undertaking a no-change policy. Because government trying to preserve the normal now. No change, right? Yeah. So in these countries, our next normal is actually not that different from now. Yeah?
For Taiwan.
Yeah, for China, Taiwan, Hong Kong. But for Singapore, for other countries, the next normal could be more like US. Yeah, So it's going to be, for me, a breakdown of globalization into localization. And it's natural anyway, if you're looking at a long historical span. We've got globalization for 70 years, since World War II. And the real globalization, if you want to count, is starting from the 90s, right? When China was introduced to WTO and then became the factory of the world. And now even China is trying to pull back, right? So I see a more regional economy and a much more accelerated pace toward digital world. I mean, people talk about metaverse. I think the other world, the world that we are not, that the physical world is gonna be completely upended for our next generation. So in that case, hospitality, hotel, travel, and trade will be different. You could be traveling in the metaverse, in the digital world. That could be very interesting. You can be anyone, right, and go anywhere. Yeah. But at the same time, this is very interesting. The more time you spend on your chair or on your bed, that means that demand for personal services and real experiences also intensify. But it doesn't mean there's going to be a lot more, longer trip, but demand for quality, exceptional services and experiences will intensify because, almost everything I can just do it from home.
Yeah.
So when I go out, it better be good, better be worth it. So I see globalization into localization, and I also see, really, individualization.
Wow.
Yeah.
So from globalization to localization, and
I'm not talking 10 years.
Yeah. So everything is become more individualized. Okay. So since time is up, and Parent, would you like to say something before we wrap up the whole meeting?
I'll just say a kind of final word, to all of us in the tourism sector is it really is a chance to reinvent and really kind of reflect on what we did previously that we might want to do better this time around. And I think sustainable is such an important part of it, not just in terms of the environment, but also just thinking through how we distribute the opportunity of hosting and tourism to more people who previously might not have thought that they were in the tourism economy, but now might want to be.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so Victor, would you like to say something?
Yeah, just echo Stephen and Perrin. I think, digitalization has been accelerated during this COVID period. For KKday, I think it's continued to, help push the digitalization process, make information more accessible. I think with travelers, safety feeling safe is important, right? Being able to travel more independently versus, in large groups previously may have these kind of trends evolving as well, right? So.
Yeah, I think we had a very interesting, panel today, and we touched, just what we've been facing in the past 20 months, and what is the next, normal, and the normal after next normals, could be. So I think the biggest learning for me today is that actually sustainability need to be holistic. It's not just about environment, not just about money, it's about everything. It's about be ready for any possible change. So thanks everybody, thanks our panelists.
And Stephen want to say something before we close the meeting.
Great.
Because today's topic is about sustainability, so I want to sort of bring it back to sustainability. Now, according to United Nations World Travel, and Tourism Council, 1 in 10 population in the world actually work in travel and tourism. This is not just hotel and travel. Yeah, this is related, restaurants business and some in the retail business, right? And it's the most entrepreneurial. It's all about SME. It's all about creativity. It's all about local businesses. And it's the most exclusive business. 54% women, right? And whether you're minority, immigrants, aboriginals, foreigners, local, it's all fair.
Yeah.
So travel and tourism business by itself is the most inclusive and sustainable business model in the world.
Thank you.
In the world. So this is very important to keep in mind that I regard ourselves, a region, is semi-social enterprise.
Wow.
I mean, we want to make as much money as we can, no question about it. But we also want to do as much good as we can to a society by empowering people, by working with people and the community. And that's really what this business is all about. It's about the most sustainable, and inclusive business in the world.
Wow. Thank you so much, Stephen. And thank you all. Before we close out, I would like to recognize the guest of honor. We have the president of American Chamber of Commerce and with us today. Would you like to say something? Or?
Andrew Ilagala, newly arrived as the president of AmCham Taiwan, and fascinated by the discussion and very enthused about bringing the chamber and the chamber's members and resources who have graced the panel today into what I think is going to be an exciting part of the build back for Taiwan in this region. And we're watching very carefully the government policies that are going to either inhibit or accelerate this sector and the movement of people. So delighted to join in, and I learned a whole bunch. So thank you very much, Jason.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So I think before we wrap up, I think we have a photo call time, right?
Yeah. We need to take a picture with Perry today. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. A big thank you for our moderators and panelists. Now, can I have you stand up and stand to a little bit to the left? And may I? Now we are having a little ceremony of appreciation. May I have David to come forward and join the photo shoot? Giants Group supports the project of civil forests started by GPE, Good Point Exchange. The goal is to restore a forest with 10,000 trees. Thankfully, with your participation, we're closing to that goal. Now, Jason and David is giving each of the panelists a certificate of appreciation and an ecosphere, the glass bottle that you're seeing in their hands, as a token of appreciation. And Perrin, Mr. Perrin, you will receive an e-certificate as well. This is to acknowledge that now on the planet Earth, there's a tree planted in your name. Thank you all. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. The Sustainable Travel Forum has reached an end, but the journey of pursuing sustainability has just begun. It's a long way to go, but we have each other as partners, as you can see along the way. We welcome you to stay around and take a look at the exhibitions and find out more inspirations to how we can partner up and come up with more sustainability solutions. Mr. Parameta will stay with us for another few minutes. If you have questions and want to talk to him, you're welcome to go to the back and connect with him. See you until next time.
Yeah, now it's networking time.
So 你要跟